Hey there, welcome to the Lore to Death podcast. My name's Brett, and today I want to talk about nothing, actually. I figured that it's about time to do a nice chill episode where I just talk to you guys. To be entirely honest, we have experienced quite a lot of growth lately, and I figure that this is a good opportunity to kind of say hello to the new listeners and answer any questions that you guys might have. So I reached out on Instagram, YouTube, and I asked if there's anything that you guys want to hear me answer, and I got a few great questions. So I figured I would just take this week to answer those questions and talk about whatever I want to talk about, and that's pretty much it. I have no agenda, I have no script, I'm just kind of speaking. Truth be told, I am an episode behind where I think I should be, and I figured I needed a very quick buffer. I really don't have a whole lot of time this week, as I'm flying out on vacation for a couple weeks, and I'm not going to be able to make any content for those couple weeks. So I'm kind of scrambling in these last couple of days to figure out what I'm going to do to make sure that stuff gets uploaded while I'm gone. And again, this year has just been way too busy. So I'm pretty proud of myself for keeping on top of things and not missing an upload so far. And I hope to keep it that way. And I can keep it that way if I just work really hard for a minute, do this episode, and figure it out. So if you're here for lore, then I apologize. If you are a new listener, then hello, welcome. My name's Brett, and I'm really glad that people are tuning in. Recently, I started putting a little bit more effort into uploading on YouTube with YouTube Shorts and just the videos, and those have done exceedingly well lately. I'm still kind of baffled by how much we've grown in this short period of time, and I am very thankful for everyone who is tuning in. So if you are a new or old listener, I just wanted to say thank you very much. I really do appreciate everyone who listens, whether I know you or I don't. This is a fun little passion project that I have, and I'm glad that I'm not just screaming into a void. As much as I don't really care if this grows very much, I am glad that someone's listening, and having people out there to suggest things, to ask questions, to interact with, that engagement really does help me want to make things. So it does help. I really do appreciate it. So again, thank you for listening. And I think with that out of the way, let's just start answering some of these questions. So I'm just going to start from the bottom and go to the top, and we'll get through these questions. So first up, in your opinion, which game has the most interesting lore you'd read a book series about? And that's a really great question. Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is Star Wars. Honestly, that's a really great question. And the first game that comes to mind is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And that's just because there is a book that continues it already. It's kind of a cheap answer. It's my favorite game. I think the lore of the Old Republic is so interesting. I just think that period of Star Wars is incredible, and I will never get tired of content from it. But that feels like a little bit of a cheaty answer since there already is comic books and books about that time. So I would have to actually say Bloodborne. I think the lore of Bloodborne is incredible, or at least the little lore that From Software gives us. And the same goes for all of the Dark Souls games, but Bloodborne in particular, if you know me, you know that I love H.P. Lovecraft books. I love Call of Cthulhu. Like, I love all of that. So the Lovecraftian Victorian vibe is right up my alley. And I would read every single book, comic, anything that came out about the Bloodborne universe. If they make another game, you bet I'm playing it day one. So if I had to say any game that wasn't a cop-out, I would say probably Bloodborne. I wish that there was more fleshed out lore for that game, but also I think that's what makes it so special, is that there isn't any fleshed out lore. It's just kind of what it is. But definitely that. I would read everything about Bloodborne. Next up, we have, if you could ask a video game creator to please flesh out the lore of something, what would it be? And my answer is kind of the same. It's Bloodborne or Elden Ring. I think that Elden Ring would do really well with some good fleshed out lore. I'm hoping that we get a lot in Shadow of the Erdtree, not to date this episode or anything, but I do hope that we get some good lore out of the DLC. But the same goes for From Software games in general. Like I just said, I would kill for some expanded lore from those games because I like the way they tell stories in vague inferences, but I really do just want like books and books and books about these games. Although I'm sitting here thinking about it and I'm trying to come up with an answer that isn't just Bloodborne or Elden Ring, because I literally just said both of those two things in the last one. But if it had to be something hyper specific, I think it would just be about Miquella in Elden Ring and the gods in general, and just like what happened to them, what is happening, what is Miquella's purpose, what's going on. But I feel like that's just the Berserk manga, and I know that Berserk is a huge influence on the Dark Souls games in general. And after reading the manga, there are a lot of things in Elden Ring that just make so much more sense now that I've read Berserk. So I again feel like that's kind of a non-answer, because just read Berserk and you'll understand Elden Ring so much more. You'll get such a deeper understanding of what's happening in that game. It's incredible. But I would genuinely like them. Like, that's what I would ask, would be, what is the lore of Miquella? What is Miquella's purpose? Why is Miquella doing everything that Miquella's doing? Why is Miquella in an egg? So that's it. I really tried to think about something else, but I keep coming back to Elden Ring because that's where my brain goes. Next up, we have, when is that DJ guy coming back? And soon. He is coming back soon. I promise, buddy. Once I get back from my vacation, I'm going to try to sort out some guests on the show. And I would like to have DJ back. It seemed like you guys really enjoyed having DJ on last time. So we will have DJ back soon enough. And on a serious note, are there any series you haven't done yet that you've been saving for the right time? That is such a good question. I think the answer is no. I haven't really been... Usually, I don't really save up ideas. I kind of just... When I have an idea for an episode, I create a template for that episode when I'm writing it. So I have the intro and I write a couple paragraphs about what I want to write about. So like, if I wanted to do the Mind Flayers, I set up a Google Doc. I start typing about Mind Flayers so I have an idea and I kind of know where I want to go with that. And then I leave it until I'm ready to start writing it. So it's not really that I'm saving it for the right time. It's usually just I want to finish writing one thing before I start writing about another. And I think I've hit on the main series that I really want to do. But the last 6 or 7 months, I've been going purely based on viewer suggestions. So I haven't really had to think that much about what I want to do. But I think if there was anything that I was saving for the right time, it would probably be Elden Ring lore. And how did I get back to Elden Ring? But no, hear me out. I promise that this isn't just a weird Elden Ring fetish. I really want to do a write-up on the Shadow of the Erdtree lore after I finish playing it. But no, realistically, there aren't any series that I haven't done that I've been saving. I've just been kind of flying by the seat of my pants and just writing about whatever I want and whatever viewers want to hear. I think the last one that I was saving up for a good while was actually the Samus Aran episode for Metroid. I had that episode idea for ages. I think when I conceived the podcast, that was one of the things that I really wanted to write about. And it took me, I think, over a year to actually release that episode. It was just other things came up and I wanted to write about other things. And the Metroid episode really just kind of fell on the wayside until one day I'm like, I have no idea what I want to write about. What do I need? And I kind of came back to it and I'm like, you know what? I could go for a good long episode because I knew it was going to be a challenge to write. There's a lot to think about when writing that episode. And that on top of the Mind Flayer episode were probably the hardest episodes that I've had to write just because of how much content there is. So I think that's the last one that I really saved. And I just kind of saved it because I wasn't ready to write that much of an episode when I was early on. But nowadays, I'm kind of going back and revisiting series, and I'll talk about that in a bit. There's been a lot of love for certain series that I've written about, and people just want more and more of that. And so I'm going to shift more into that content, I think, because that seems to be what people want to hear about. And I have no problem writing about it. So I guess the non-ADHD answer is I don't really have any series that I haven't done that I want to do. Everything that I want to do, I've done. All of my favorite game series, I've done Bloodborne, BioShock, Fallout, Metroid, Resident Evil. I feel like I've done pretty much everything that I want to do. And now I'm just kind of continuing that on. I don't really have any like preemptive thoughts about what I'm writing about, I guess, which it's kind of a lame answer, but it is what it is. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. Next one up is, can you do lore on Glorb, as in the ghetto, the lore of Ghetto Bikini Bottom? I mean, you know what? Glorb? I had no idea what this was before I just Googled that, and I don't really know what to say. You know what? Maybe one day I'll do the lore of Glorb, the Glorb, if you will, the Glore. I don't like how that sounds. You know what? Maybe one day we'll do the lore of Ghetto Bikini Bottom. Okay, next up we have, do you have any other channels? You do good work, and I'd like to give listens and traffic where I can. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I don't really. I used to stream on another channel, but I don't do that anymore, really. It's something that I think about going back to, but I never really do. So currently, this is really the only place where I make content. And I don't really have plans on making content anywhere else. I had the idea to start a podcast about music and just review albums and give my thoughts, but I don't know if I'll ever do that. I'm really content with where this channel is, and I don't necessarily feel like I want to do another one. Currently, it just feels like a lot of work. Like, this channel takes an absurd amount of time from my free time, and I just don't know if I'm ready to commit to more channels. Eventually, I think I would like to get a gaming channel back up so I can do live streams and stuff like that. But currently, I don't really have anywhere else. You can follow me on socials and you'll get some behind the scenes photos, but that's really about it. I wish that I had a better answer for you, but if you support the Lore to Death podcast, then you're supporting me. That's really all I have to give currently. And also, what is your favorite IP to research / make content on? And right now, it is the Dungeons and Dragons universe, or specifically Baldur's Gate 3. I am still so immersed in Baldur's Gate 3, and I feel like there's endless content that I can make on that. Plus, the stuff that goes into Baldur's Gate 3 is all just D&D lore, so I get to just go deep into D&D lore, and I will never get tired of that. I love D&D. And every time that I get to write about it, I feel happy. It's what makes me happy. I really do enjoy it. If I had to give a close second, it would be the Fallout universe. Currently, as of recording this episode, I've only ever released one Fallout episode, I believe. But I definitely have more in the works. They're coming down the pipe. And I think Fallout would be probably a close second. Although, it's hard to say because I really love talking about Star Wars. And Star Wars content is... I mean, Star Wars is my favorite IP. There's no question about it. There's almost nothing I love more than Star Wars. And so anytime I get to write about Star Wars, I am also a happy little fellow. So I guess it's kind of like a three-pronged Dungeons & Dragons, Fallout, Star Wars. Because I never get tired of making Star Wars content, but the Star Wars content doesn't do as well. Maybe it's because there's already so much out there, and the stuff that I'm talking about isn't necessarily groundbreaking, with the exception of my episode on the Nile. That one gained quite a bit of traction because it's a very niche subject that I just timed really well with releasing, because there was kind of some stuff happening there as I released it. So yeah, it's actually, the more I think about it, the more tricky that is. But I think it's still, Dungeons & Dragons is still my favorite IP to research and make content on, just because there's so much. There's so much that's fleshed out, and it's not like there's really stuff that's not canon. It's just everything that they make is constantly building upon what they have, which does mean that there are plenty of retcons and plenty of issues. But while that makes it hard to research, because you really do have to do your research, I can't just like look at a wiki and extrapolate upon that information. It's really excellent to make that content. I really do enjoy making that content, and it gives my brain a little bit of a workout. As I believe I mentioned in the Mind Flayer episode, I wrote like 10,000 words, which is insane. That is like the longest that I've ever written. That episode was 1 hour and 2 minutes. That was longer than an episode that I did with DJ, which blows my mind. Like that, I didn't realize I could talk for that long. So yes, I think I'll stick with Dungeons & Dragons and Baldur's Gate 3 being my favorite IP to write about. Which actually brings me right into what I wanted to talk about next, and that's all for the questions. So what I wanted to talk about was just content in general. Lately, the thing that has blown up and has made the YouTube channel get a lot of views is the Mind Flayer episode. I have been asked many a time because of that episode to do more Baldur's Gate 3 and Dungeons & Dragons content. I have also come out on that video saying that I don't want to just make one thing because that's what the algorithm wants. There was one fellow who commented saying that if I focus on like 1 to 3 topics, I'm more likely to get traction. And that is true. I do agree with that. I'm not going to dispute that. But I want to do what you guys want to hear. I want to make content that you guys want to listen to. And ever since I released my first Dungeons & Dragons / Baldur's Gate 3 video, I've been getting so many questions asking to do more. So I'm going to try to supplement the D&D content with other things, but it does seem like that's kind of the shift that people want, is to go right into D&D content. And some people, it seems like they just want me to do nothing but D&D content, which is fine. Like, if that's what people want, I'll do it. I have no problem with that. Like I said, I think it's my favorite IP to write about. So I just wanted to put that out there that for the next while, at least, it seems like people still really want D&D content. I have had several suggestions for specific things to do within that universe, and I think it would be really fun to do. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to try to supplement it with other content. Like, maybe I'll do, a Baldur's Gate episode, then a non-Baldur's Gate episode, and then, repeat that every other upload. I'll do Baldur's Gate / D&D, but it really depends what you guys want to hear. So if you don't want to just hear about Dungeons & Dragons, then please let me know what you want to hear. Because like I said before, I'm currently just going off of listener suggestions. I've been doing so for quite some time. And while what I'm writing about isn't necessarily my own original ideas, it's still stuff that I want to write about. So if you want to hear something other than D&D content, please, you can email me at lordtodeath@gmail.com. You can find me on social media at lordtodeath. I'm most active on Instagram. I have threads where I go and shitpost every once in a while. Or you can text me. There's a link at the top of the episode where you can just send me a message. I have gotten one from there. It's an interesting thing that my provider has offered, where I have a text messaging service where I don't get to see your phone number. I don't get to see your information. It just tells me kind of roughly where you're from, and then it shows me your message. I think that's pretty neat. I don't expect it to get a lot of use, but it is there. So if you have any questions, if you have anything, send it there. That's fine. Or you can email me, do whatever. But my main point is, if you don't want to just hear about Dungeons & Dragons, if you want to hear about something else, send it to me. Let me know. Because I am currently inundated with Baldur's Gate 3 content that people want me to make. So that's what I'm going to make. And if I don't get any other suggestions, then that's just it. Until I decide that I want to write about something else, which is usually when a game comes out and I'm like, this is cool lore, I should write about this. So if you want to hear something, please send it in. I love hearing from you guys. It always makes me happy when you guys send stuff in, because that means that it's less work that I have to do, quite frankly. So please send in suggestions. I love it. And I mentioned this before, I want to have DJ back, but I would also love to have other guests on. And I would love to do it in a format that is more true to this podcast. So last time that I had DJ on, we had a blast, and we talked about Persona, and we basically just talked, right? It was more of a podcast conversational style, and you guys seem to like that. But I would like to try doing a format where it is me just explaining the lore to someone and then having them react and having a conversation with them about the lore. So I want to have DJ back on, but I also want to have other people on. So if you want to be a guest on the show, then please reach out. The only way that I know you want to be a guest is if you ask me. I have a couple other podcasts that I listen to that I'll be reaching out to as well to see if I can get them on the show. Going to see if we can do something with the Overthinking Games podcast again. Love those guys. Please check them out. Overthinking Games. You can find them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Love those fellows a lot. They're still making amazing content. Please go check them out. I did an episode with them quite a while back, and it was some of the most fun that I've had doing podcasting. They're a really great group of people. Please go check them out. You can also find DJ at Rival X Reviews on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, on social media. He does a show about anime, and it is very informative, especially in trying to keep up with this season. This is the first season of anime where I'm trying to keep up with the season. I'm watching a couple things from this season. Usually I just kind of find anime from wherever ago. I don't bother whether it's relevant or new. I just make sure that I like it. Usually it's something that I have a friend shove down my throat. But DJ's podcast is fantastic. It's a great resource if you don't really watch anime, but you want to start. It really does give great overviews of the series that are out. And I trust his opinions on anime. So check him out. Rival X Reviews. Check out my friends at Overthinking Games. If you want to be a guest on the show, let me know. If you have a suggestion for a topic, please let me know again. Or if you just want to say hi, like just, hey, what's up? Just, text me hello. I'm cool with that. I can't text you back, but if you email me, I'll certainly email you back. And I think that's really all that I have for today. Like I said, I didn't really have anything planned. I just kind of wanted to talk for a bit, get through the questions, and I think I have done just that. So in another 6 months or so, I think I'll do another one of these. I think I'm going to keep this as a twice yearly thing, just a checkup Q&A. I think it's good to interact with you guys. I think it's good for you guys to interact with me as a creator rather than just the guy who spouts lore at you. I am a person behind this, believe it or not. And that's, again, all I really have to say. So you can find me online at Lore to Death on your favorite social media or podcast websites. If you want to reach out, loretodeath@gmail.com or at Lore to Death on social media. If you're listening on Spotify, there is a Q&A function where you can drop a question, a suggestion, or a hello, and there will be a link where you can text me too. So that's cool. That's a thing. It's neat. And I don't really have any fun anecdotes for the end of this episode, but just be nice to people. There's a lot of terrible things in the world, and you don't need to contribute to being a terrible thing in someone else's world. It's as easy as holding the door for someone or smiling at them as they walk past. Just something to brighten someone's day, or if you're like me and you have resting bitch face, just look at the ground, ignore people. People are better off without seeing your scowl. And obviously that's a joke, but seriously, just be good to people. That's all I really have to say. That's the message I want to get out in the world. And I'll lure you to death in the next one. See you later.